Good morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker, and I'm here for another constitutional talk. And with the 4th of July just passed, I thought we'd talk about the Declaration for a moment. And what I really want to bring up today is, and this is from the messages and papers from the presidents. And I'm looking at Rucker B. Hayes, and this is when Thomas Jefferson's writing desk that he wrote the Declaration of Independence on, or at least that's what we believe it to be, was presented. And Thomas Jefferson gives this writing desk to Joseph Coolidge Jr. as a memorial of his affection. It was made from a drawing of his own by Benjamin Randall, cabinet maker of Philadelphia, with whom he first lodged on his arrival in that city in May 1776, and is the identical one on which he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Politics, as well as religion, has its superstitions. These gaining strengths with time may one day give imaginary value to this relic for its associations with the birth of the great Charter of Independence. This is the inscription in which the desk adheres from the handwriting of Thomas Jefferson. Now, he presented this desk to Mr. Randolph, and I just thought it would be interesting to see that. And this letter, this comes from Rucker B. Hayes in April of 1880. But I'd like to move on just a little bit further. And this is a letter from Robert C. Winthrop, just below Rucker B. Hayes. His Excellency Rucker B. Hayes, President of the United States. My dear sir, I've been privileged to bring with me from Boston a present to the United States, a very precious historic relic. It is the little desk on which Mr. Jefferson wrote the original draft of the Declaration of Independence. The desk was given by Mr. Jefferson himself to my friend, the late Joseph Coolidge of Boston, at the time of his marriage to Jefferson's granddaughter, Miss Randolph, and it bears an autographed inscription of singular interest written by the illustrious author of the Declaration in the very last year of his life. Just a thought on the desk itself. The meaning of our Declaration is an important one. And if we move a little further on in the messages and papers of the presidents, we come across on July 4th, 1914, we come across Woodrow Wilson's speech. And when you go down to paragraph 2, and he is speaking at Independence Hall, July 4th, 1914. And as you know, this is about the period of time when we enter the Great War, known as World War I. And he cites, have you read the Declaration of Independence or attended with close comprehension to the real character of it when you have heard it read? If you have, you will know that it is not a 4th of July oration. It was a vital piece of political business and not a piece of rhetoric. And if you will pass beyond those preliminary passages which we are accustomed to quote about the rights of men and read into the heart of the document, you will see it as very express and detailed, and it consists of a series of definite specifications concerning actual public business of the day, not the business of our day. for that matter with which it deals is past. But the business of that first revolution by which the nation was set up, the business of 1776, its general statements, its general declarations cannot mean anything to us unless we apprehend it to similar specific body of particulars as to what we consider the essential business of our own day. Now, when we talk about the Declaration of Independence, voted on July 2nd, 1776. And Wilson makes his impassioned speech just prior to World War I. But I think Wilson is wrong on a couple of points, because I think it is an important piece of rhetoric. The Declaration of Independence is a document in which we're telling the King of England that we must separate, and gives all the reasons for that separation, listing the complaints to the king. In the preamble, it talks about the rights of man. It talks about all these things of great importance. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They come from our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In today's world, we have some political movements that have taken the right to life to mean something in which it never really was to mean. And with all things, this occurs. And we've taken the preamble especially and placed it or replaced it into the Constitution upon which it is not. And we've taken those ideas, that beginning of that document, to be like rights in the Constitution. My friends, these are separate documents. And this is one of the great mistakes many people cite when talking about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Because the Declaration of Independence is a document demanding that we are in a free and independent states, and a right ought to be free. And at the end goes into stating all the things in which free nations are entitled to do. That's far different from passing a constitution that gives us a blueprint for setting up a government, for free government, for independent government. The Constitution is the main law of the land. The Declaration is basically a signed letter to the king. They are different. That doesn't mean we can't look for meaning behind our founders and what they believed at the time, because that's also important. Just as the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers are important to understanding the Constitution, so is the Declaration of Independence, to get an idea of what these men believed. But the Declaration is not on the same level as the Constitution. The Declaration was passed on July 2nd and first read, signed on July 4th. It was read in the back of what is now Independence Hall on the stoop by members of the Committee of Correspondence. was an important event, the first reading of the Declaration. But following the Declaration, we didn't stop. We didn't cease. We sent ministers to France in an effort to get deals to help us in the revolution. And we sent men to Spain and up to Holland and to the Queen of Russia. We wanted treaties in order to aid us in the process. And following sending men for treaties, we also worked on an Articles of Confederation. We had to confederate, which is our first constitution. That's why a constitution is just more important than the Declaration itself. In today's world, we have to follow the Constitution. We do not have to follow the Declaration of Independence because it's basically a letter to the king. An important letter, granted. And I love the Declaration. I love what it states. I love the meaning of it and the feel of it. It's important. But it's an historical document. And Woodrow Wilson says it's not a work of rhetoric, but necessary business. Well, it was necessary business in 1776. But it's also packed with rhetoric. There's plenty in there to make people understand exactly what they were intending. We'd already passed the rights of colonists, the different letters, petition to the king, different things that our Continental Congress had issued. So it really is a far different document than the Constitution. And why do I bring this up? I bring this up because when you listen to people discussing the Constitution, they bring up things in the Declaration of Independence as if they're part of the Constitution. And it creates a kind of misunderstanding. Both documents are important. They truly are. And understanding our Constitution does help to understand the Articles of Confederation, to know where we came from, to where we're going. And all these documents and letters between our founders are important and valuable resources to understand exactly what they were doing, along with the records of the convention itself. And this is where historians must go to really get a solid founding understanding. These are important things to understand if we're going to discuss original intent, because it comes to what is the original intent. Certainly some of those things in the Declaration of Independence are intended, but it's a mistake to take the language directly from the Declaration and insist that it's part of the Constitution, because they're different documents written years apart. Now, next year is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, when we threw off the shackles from England and we became our own nation. Not an easy task. Our founders knew the grave situation we were in and what we were actually dealing with as we began a fight for freedom, a fight for liberty, a fight for independence, which is what the Revolutionary War was. The revolution itself had already happened in the minds of the people. They had already were convinced, the great majority, that we needed to be free and independent. So the ideas of the revolution were already at hand. just a little something to think about. We just had our 4th of July celebration, and I think it's something to understand when listening to arguments of constitutional nature, that you can't really mix the two because they're different documents written for different purposes. And with that, we'll catch you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. Liberty is there for a reason. Freedom is important, and independence is important. We'll catch you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. Goodbye for now.